Okay, let's just do a couple of things before we go to the audience. So, Sara, you have, as a business, clearly made a big decision to make this really important. And while you talked about badgering the CFO until their eyes rolled, there must have been a core business decision to make to go from zero to hero, which is really what Kilroy's done. So, what was behind that?
Right, it started with our CEO, John Kilroy, who, I've never been to Sydney before. You have a lot of beautiful boats out there. He's a sailor. He spends a lot of his time on the water, and I just think he legitimately cares. It's not lip service. So he hired me directly, and, that sort of actual caring is sort of where it happened. We have a lot of times where sustainability people get hired because some mid-level manager thinks it may be a good idea, but they don't have upper management engagement, and that is really, I think, the magic that makes it all happen. We'd sort of, on a lark, built a few LEED buildings and had noticed they'd leased up pretty quickly, and we're like, oh, that's a good idea. And then it became expensive to pay consultants, and so they're like, well, gosh, we should get somebody on board to just do this for us. So it sort of started there with really baby steps, and then it's grown.
Great. Roxana, you spoke about the how GRESB is a proxy for risk and therefore quality of investments, and I think that's a well understood territory. In Australia and obviously other parts of the world, we're seeing more money coming out of China, and I'm interested in GRESB's engagement with China and some of that money, and to what extent they see those things as important. Is that you seeing a moving trend there or not?
It's interesting. So I spent a week in Hong Kong last week with my colleague Ruben, and I got a very good understanding of why some things work in different regions and not in others. And I guess one of the reasons why everything works so well here is because there's a very good, intense sense of collaboration. And everybody's willing to share, and everybody's willing to talk about it, and willing to learn from each other and not make the same mistakes. And I think that in Asia as a whole, not necessarily only in China, that practice is not as embedded yet. It's just not part of the culture yet. But we all know that China has made some big commitments towards reducing the carbon footprint and participating in the global reduction of carbon footprint. And we expect to see real efforts and action from that side more aggressively from now on.
Okay. And Andy, amazing project here to be involved with, and you describing just in the back room how you pitched to Lend-Lease when they were still pitching for this project before they were a successful bidder. I'm interested in what learnings you might have from this project for the sector. You were describing how Lend-Lease ran their ruler over it. It wasn't going to stack up for them to do it. It really took someone like you to sort of make that opportunity work. So what are some of the learnings? Because what we would like is for players like Lend-Lease, whoever it was, building on these type of projects, to see that opportunity and have it stack up. So what are the learnings for the audience?
Well, I think it already is getting easier. I mean, when the tender was closing for this site a few years ago, it was, I guess, the business case for embedded solar was less compelling than it is today. So already things from a business case point of view are much more advanced. I think that we are seeing these features become more prominent. As I said before, I think the specifications, anyone who is drawing up the specification really needs to embed it as a clear objective to make a level playing field. But then we're also seeing more prominent specialists in the area, I guess, market these features as well, and it's starting to become a competitive advantage. So, I think in our case, Lend-Lease was a terrific partner. When we did embed the project, they really worked with us to make sure they deliver it, and in subsequent conversations on other projects with them, they're really looking at that as a default now. So I feel like it's progressed a lot, and as I said, I hope we're just a one-off in a way. I mean, it'd be nice if it was just default for everybody going forward.
Okay, let's open the floodgates now for questions. There's a few texts coming up. We'll start. We'll start with. In fact, we'll start over here with Nina.
I'm curious to Sara
if you just introduce yourself,
Nina.
Nina.
Nina James, Investor Property Group. totally understand the pressure of GRESB, but grateful for it at the same time, because I find that it gives us a whole lot of permission to do stuff that we want to do anyway, and we just relate it back to GRESB points, so thank you. But I wanted to ask you, particularly with Northern America, what are the, say, maybe 2 big trends that you're watching carefully and getting your business ready for in a sustainability context?
That I'm watching from here.
No, more so from North America.
So the 2 trends I'm seeing, we talked about it a little bit, but off-site PPAs. So I'm maxed out on renewables right now. I know 5.5 megawatts doesn't seem like a lot, and pathetically it's not. You know, our overall energy consumption is around 280 megawatts. And so the first deals with like really showing additionality with an off-site PPA, you know, that solar facility, that wind farm wouldn't have existed without my financially interacting with it in some way. So that's one trend that we're looking at right now. And then and then we're also trying to really wrap our heads around what resilience mean in our new political climate. I can't use the word resilience anymore, sadly, but, you know, what is that? You know, so business continuity. You know, what exactly that means? How do you assess it? Can you get a reduced insurance premium? Those kind of things. We're just starting to really grapple with what that might mean.
So we're going to do a couple of texts, then we'll come back up. So there's a couple of questions down here, Andy, about your business model. You know, once you pay for volunteers' time, how does it stack up? Is it financially sustainable? Do you plan to go to a more paid staff model?
Well, I guess we don't pay volunteers. They contribute their time. It is, in our case, I think we've set up one dedicated project with very clear objectives. So we're not trying to solve every problem in the world. We're very clear about what we're trying to do, and we are very considerate of volunteer time, and we plan things accordingly. Most of us have young families on the board, and so we always are balancing volunteer time with life and paid work. It is, in our case, it's financially sustainable. We have a plan in place, and we've also got an engagement plan for volunteers over the project life. I think, what was the second question?
Yeah, so does it stack up, and do you have an intention to
further sites?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess our approach is to more share learnings with other groups. So we're taking an open source approach. We're sharing all the output data from the sites. There's interesting learnings from shading and the way that affects, I guess, solar forecasts. So we're trying to share things like technical data, financial data, and also contractual data as well, so that it's easier for other people, whether they be private businesses or volunteer groups, to go and do projects themselves.
Great. Thank you. Jeff.
Jeff Robinson from Oricon. I'm interested in the target market around GRESB and where you're sort of looking at expanding at the moment. A lot of the companies here are, sort of public companies, investors, and so on. Is there much interest in reporting under GRESB for, say, private companies who've, are doing a certain amount of work in sustainability, and what kind of advantages would that bring? And is that sort of happening in America as well? And I had just a question on the photo that you had of the installation on this building here. Is shadowing from the other building a problem? Because it looked like it was.
Okay, we'll do number 1 first, and then we'll go to number 2.
So when you say private companies, you mean private versus listed, or okay? So in 2016, our reporting scope, we had 759 entities reporting to us. Large part of that were private entities, so funds, real estate funds that did it. And of course, the private sector says, well, listed has it better because they've got all these requirements for transparency and things that they have to do anyway. Everything we do as private entities, we do because we initiate that. We feel it's important. We're not so pushed from behind to actually do that. So there are, at the same time, of course, Lisa says, well, private, they're smaller, they're more in control maybe, they've got smaller funds. There are pros and cons on both sides. In short, yes, the private sector definitely is interested in that, and we have some great examples from here as well. In terms of expanding the scope globally, indeed, Australia is getting very close to a cap. I think we cover around 80–90% of the market right now. But there's still a lot of room from Asia, from Europe, especially continental Eastern Europe. We've had, well, last year we had the first Russian company reporting to us, which was a great sign, and they didn't do that bad. We do see a lot of room or opportunity from Africa and Asia in general. And North America, let's not forget about them. There's still room there.
Yeah, I mean, I see the American market as